How's everybody doing today? Good? So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Frank Foster. I've been in technology for the last 7 years, both on the IT help desk as well as working at the Apple Store. Today I figured we'd want to talk a little bit about something that every student should know about, which is backups and saying yes to backups. What do I mean by saying yes to backups? Well, to start off, I've been a technician for a while. I've seen the best and the worst come out of people as they have issues with their machines, as they've had problems that happen. And the number one question we always ask is, do you have a backup? I'm sure everyone here who's had a computer and had computer issues has had that question asked of them before. So today I want to prepare you all on how to say yes to that question. So, getting started, what's the most important stuff that you need to save for your backup? So, I'm pretty sure all of you can kind of answer that question yourselves. These are just a few examples of what I believe is important. Things like pictures of my family, my friends. A lot of people forget about those, but they're actually super important for most people. Documents like tax information, that kind of just hit us recently, didn't it? Everything else like games, projects, programs, it kind of really is up to whatever your information is. So we know what's important, but how do we back it up? When we do a backup, there's a number of different methods that we can perform that action with. And we have to ask a few questions as far as what information or what type of backup do we need. So how much space do we need, or how much storage? How much does it cost? And how secure is it? Those are probably the top three. I'd put those into a larger category with the smallest, the middle, and the highest cost. Now, cost is sort of relative to how much storage you'll get. The more storage you have, the more storage you're going to need, the higher the cost is going to be. So we usually like to start off with the small or the low amount of data and a small, low amount of cost. There's sort of two different options here. We have cloud-based services like iCloud, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, and then we have the hardware side, which is a thumb drive. The nice thing about these services is that they're cheap or they're free. If you're a student, you can usually get them for free, or even in the case of iCloud, Google Drive, and Dropbox, you can get a small amount of that storage for literally no cost. They're really portable, they work on any computer and any device, and they're super easy to set up. For most of these services, you just need an email address and a password. The cons, though, is that when you hand off that information to a cloud service, you don't know who's going to have it. It's not in your hands, it's in the hands of another service. So their security and what security practices they have totally depends on that company. As far as hard drives and flash drives go, they might not be as stable as other options, as well as they might not be easily kept track of. I'm sure everyone here who's owned a thumb drive at some point has left one in a pocket and it's gone through the wash, or you dropped it on the floor, or something's happened. So that's sort of, for this I would use this for small amounts of files, small amounts of information, maybe a paper, a couple of pictures, nothing too important. The next piece here would be a moderate amount of data. So this would be used for larger amounts of information. Your pictures, your files, your videos, all the stuff you got from iTunes, from Windows, all that sort of stuff. And this is, again, you can use for cloud information. You can get larger storage amounts of cloud information, or you can get portable hard drives. So these are a little bit more stable and in larger capacities than the thumb drives typically are. The pros are that they're easy to set up, still pretty much the same process. They can be portable, or they can be at home. They're relatively inexpensive, so you don't really you're still spending more than you did before, but they're usually a cheaper option. But they can be confusing. There's a lot of different options for hard drives. There's a lot of different speeds and sizes and capacities and storage options for it. They do cost a lot more to fix. So generally, if you lose or a hard drive breaks, you're going to have to pay for a whole new one. And they're really only valuable for larger amounts of data. I wouldn't use these for just one or two files. The last is large amounts of data. So this is something that you would use for, say, businesses, for, hey, I'm a photographer and I need to take 10 bajillion pictures a year. This is what I would use for those types of use cases. They're very secure. There's very few failures. and they can be managed locally or offsite. This is basically these two options here, which is a network attached storage drive or a server. Network attached storage drives are a number of drives, hard drives, that work together to create one bigger drive. Sort of like if you took a bunch of cars together and smushed them together and got a bigger car. I don't know, it's a horrible analogy. Servers are also computers that have large amounts of hard drives, but they can be used over your local network or they can be used across the internet. I work for a large business and we have something like 10,000 terabytes of information that we use to store all of our information, customer information, and that's an insane amount of storage. Most computers have less than a terabyte of information. So the problem with these is that they are generally pretty costly to upkeep. Any failures that happen can be costly, even though they're few and far between. They're a little complicated to configure and to manage, and they're really only worth it for businesses or people who have absurd amounts of data. So as we can see, the options are growing. There's quite a lot of choices to make, but it really isn't the matter of making that choice, it's a matter of keeping a habit of doing it. So that comes to our last part, which is not forgetting to back up. So what are some of the best ways of keeping track of all this? Well, some are pretty simple. Write it down. Put it right on a sticky note next to your computer. Put it on a whiteboard if you have one. Put it in a planner. You can use your computer, your phone. Most people have smartphones these days, which can alert you or alarm you when you need to do it. And there's a lot of automated software as well. Windows has Windows Backup. Time Machine is great for Apple computers. iCloud or Android can also be used for iPhones or Android phones. I mean, there's plenty of things to help keep you on track. So we've gone over what's important. We've gone over the different pieces of tools that you have to save your information. And we've gone over the habit of keeping it going. So now that we've learned how important this is, we can all confidently say, or at least I hope I've equipped you with the tools to go out and say yes whenever someone asks you if you have a backup. Thank you.